We are now at the final presentation point for our afternoon section on track 1, and I'm delighted to welcome from DG Connect in the European Commission, Philippe, who is the head of the sector multilingualism, to tell us about the Common European Language Data Space. So, Philippe, over to you.
Thank you and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to present you the European language data space. But before that, I would like to maybe come back to the origin of this exercise. So what is the language data space? Where does it come from? You have to go back to 2020, where the European Commission vision and establish actually the European strategy for data. In short, in a nutshell, what is this strategy is really to take back control of our data and also ease the transfer and the exchange of this data. So really making a genuine single market for data with the EU angle, ensuring privacy, compliancy, trustworthiness, and the security related to that. In order to support the move, we have also, for the first time, launched a program, specific program called the Digital Europe program. It's not a research one, it's really a deployment really to facilitate the deployment of digital technologies and digital platforms, capacities. On that exercise, we have foreseen different activities. Strategic objective is called, I like to call it blobs, because when you look at the graphic, it's really look like blobs exercise. So we will have cybersecurity, which is important, high HPC, high performance computing, skill, digital technology deployment, and we have another angle, which is a cloud data and AI, and that's where really the funding come from and the support come from. We have decided to go, and it's logical, but it's worth being mentioned, to go and deploy the data spaces through the different sectors. And the reason for that is to ensure that the concerned stakeholder really involve themselves in this domain. So the people dealing with agricultural domain are most importantly focusing on agriculture and less on skill, tourism, mobility, and the like. So really ensuring that the different groups, stakeholders are really onboarding and really take these data space from themselves. Now, obviously, different data space are exchanging different type of data. The data exchange foreseen in the agricultural domain, being the weather forecast or the crops growing things, is different than the one that you will find in the financial domain or in the tourism domain. That being said, we have also created a very specific data spaces called languages, a language data space, because it gets something very important, knowing that half of the data exchange in Europe are really language data, and we wanted to be sure that we collect and we can exchange this wealth of information in a given very specific data spaces. In order to do so, if we look a little bit of the budget of the big digital program and the like, we are talking about huge quantity of budget. But when you percolate and when you go back to the line related to the language data space, we have dedicated 6 million euro in the establishment of and the running of the platform for the next 3 years. Of course, with that exercise, we will have to ensure the design principle of all the data spaces. The fact that the data remain under the control of the owners, that the governance framework is fair and transparent, that we have the EU angle of rule and value, but also the fact that the technical specificity, the technical infrastructure is compatible among the different data spaces, that interconnection and interoperability is confirmed, it's ensured, and obviously the openness of this exercise so that the client, the users can come in and come out as they wish. From the ecosystem, we are not luckily alone in this endeavor. In addition to all of the different data spaces, we can take benefit of the different angle, different specificity support from the data space, from the digital program, like HPC, cybersecurity, advanced skill, and common service platform, but also some of this activity more specific to the data spaces, like the Dataspace Support Center. For the language data space, there is two specific endeavors that is going to also to take a role there is the AI and demand platform supporting the deployment of the technology related to the language data processing, and also the TEF, the testing experimental facility, which will also support the deployment of the solution built on the language data space. Luckily, we are not starting from zero, and we have run several endeavors, including the European Language Resource Coordination or the European Language Grid, which for the last 10 years has been supporting the gathering, the collection, and the sharing already of language resources, focusing mostly of open language resources and the language resources that was provided by the public administration, for instance. Now we go for the next step, which are really focusing on the private sectors as well. Now, if you want to have a snapshot of the stakeholder, expected stakeholder, and what they can bring and what they can take from, you will have the different type of actors being from the industry, the media, the research institute, the cultural association, or the public administration as well, which can have a wealth of text, audio, video containing really language information. From the media, if I take an example, the media stream is something very interesting. Media is providing a lot of data per second, per minute, being text, audio, and video. And it's very important to also change the mindset of it's not a fixed data set that you can download, 2 GB, 2 TB of data that is enshrined for the next century. It can also be a continuous flow of information that can be exchanged and can be challenged and marketed on that platform. Of course, from a technical point of view, what are the potential benefits? If you share that data and if you process it through the AI approach and the like, you will be able to deploy new technology, business intelligence, better business intelligence, trends analytics, access to data, supporting the transparency from the citizen. Translation is one of the best examples that has already been implemented here, but also the chatbot and accessibility. On the chatbot exercise, I can tell you that this slide is more than a year old exercise, so I'm not going to mention any other chatbot. From the governance of these data spaces, it is a little bit sensitive, it's a little bit specific, because due to the member state sensitivity on language, how language, all the different language in the union is very important. So we wanted to ensure that the member state can support the coordination, and it's going to be through the CELT thing. Will support the identification of the stakeholder, identify also the language resources, put some priority in the collection of the important language resources, and to be able to build large language model, but also developing the government scheme among them and the other governance body, which is the CELT+, which is going to be driven by the industry, supporting the important aspect of the market importance direction, and also support the description of the blueprint of really the infrastructure. Giving a snapshot of the expected architecture, we are actually forcing a distributed architecture. It's far more easy for the owners of the data to keep the data on their corner. There is some psychological aspect here as much as technological and also legal, in the sense that from the GDPR point of view, from the copyright point of view, the owners of the data prefer to keep them. So we will keep everybody will keep their own data, but we will exchange the information through the metadata exercise or through other means to be sure that the visibility and the availability of the data is ensured. Now, I will go quickly on some of the scenarios that are possible. Obviously, the data sharing, where the seller has multilingual data batches. Translation memory is one example that want to be processed and put on the market. And on the other side, purchasing exercise, somebody is interested in need of such the data to improve their translation machinery, and therefore will buy them in order to improve the things. That's one of the other one. You can take another scenario, application tools and model. You want to build your own specific workflow for automatic anonymization, but then you can go to the language data space and look for anonymization algorithm data that will support the deployment and the improvement of anonymization algorithm in order to optimize your solutions. Then you have also the service, a virtual assistant. You will be able to use also the language dataspace to build better any of the following aspect of virtual assistant. So support and tune the dialogue management, automatic speech recognition, improving natural language understanding, tuning basically. Ultimately, it's really tuning the large language model as an example. A few lines. Data analytics is an important aspect. How to ensure that you're performing efficiently in data. Well, data analytics, getting an example of the data in order to support it. And finally, market exploitation. Uh, Translation is a key point, but if you want to be able to automatize your presence in the internet with different language, well, you will need to get optimized translation mechanism. So you will have to train your machine translation engine, and you could purchase adapted data in order to tune it to your own need so that you are optimized in terms of visibility on the market. With that, I'm finishing my presentation, and I thank you.
Well, Philippe, thank you very much. I know you've gone whistle-stop tour through that. We just have, I think, one question from our audience at the moment, but if you do have more, please scan that QR code and send them through. Philippe will also be staying with us in the next session on the panel, I understand as well, so we'll be able to take questions then. But our question for this session is, if data is coming from different sources in different languages and formats, how do you plan to harmonize the data sets, or do you only harmonize the metadata?
I think that harmonizing the data set it's actually dangerous. Harmonizing the metadata is pretty easy, but as soon as you touch to the data, you have a risk to reduce the quantity of information contained to that. So first priority, keeping the data as it stands. Now, obviously, whole gathering the data maybe need some adaptation, some tuning and the like, and that would be potentially done through the platform or alternatively across the different buyers and users of the platform. The idea is also with the AI enablement platform and also the language dataspace to provide basic solution to support the transfer and the change of format of the different data to really facilitate the standardization of them.
Well, Philippe, thank you. I think that's all the questions for you for now. But as I said, you will be back in our panel discussion after
Indeed.
the break.